600 feet above the Caribbean, flames erupting from both engines, warning lights screaming across every panel. The American pilot has 3 seconds, maybe 4, before his $67 million fighter becomes a fireball. His hand slams the ejection handle. The canopy explodes away. The seat fires. He's airborne, watching his aircraft disintegrate below him. And somewhere overhead, a Venezuelan pilot is celebrating the kill of his career, convinced he's just humiliated American air power, certain he's proven the underdog can win, absolutely sure he's about to become a national hero. That celebration will last exactly 90 seconds. Then, the destroyer's missiles launch. Then, his radar warning receiver screams. Then, he realizes the trap he's flown into. Then, everything escalates. This is that story. The morning started as routine surveillance. Striker 7 cruising at 23,000 feet, monitoring the primary cocaine superhighway into North America. 90% of all cocaine passes through these Caribbean shipping lanes, over 1,000 tons annually. The U.S. Navy's presence here wasn't about freedom of navigation. It was economic warfare aimed directly at the Venezuelan regime's shadow economy. Every American patrol was strangling revenue. Every surveillance mission was a threat. And someone in Caracas had decided enough was enough. 2 Venezuelan pilots climbed into their cockpits that morning with a plan they believed was brilliant. Ambush the American jet, strike before he can react, disappear before reinforcements arrive. They'd studied the patrol patterns for weeks. They knew the American flew alone. They knew he'd be confident, maybe complacent. They knew if they came in low, hugging the coastline, they could close to missile range before he understood the danger. And most importantly, they believed in their own skill, their own courage, their ability to outfly technology with pure aggression. The lead pilots strapped in with absolute confidence. Sure, the American had better radar, better missiles, a newer aircraft, but wars aren't won by technology alone. They're won by pilots willing to take risks the enemy won't, by aggression, by surprise, by the kind of desperation that makes men do impossible things. He'd been flying combat aircraft for 15 years. He knew every vibration of his fighter, every limitation, every advantage he could squeeze from aging systems. His wingman was equally experienced, equally committed. Together they had 8 missiles. The American had 4. Numbers don't lie. Their orders were explicit. Intercept the American jet, intimidate them, make them understand they're not welcome. If necessary, engage. If necessary, kill. Command believed they'd calculated the angles perfectly. Close fast, fire first. The American would be defensive, trying to escape, giving them the initiative. Even if he got missiles off, their evasive maneuvers would defeat them. They'd done this in simulators dozens of times. They'd visualized success. They believed. This wasn't random posturing. This was calculated escalation. This was desperation married to political calculation. This was about to go catastrophically wrong. The Striker 7 pilot had no warning. 1 second, clear skies. The next, his radar warning receiver exploded with urgent tones. 2 fast movers inbound, aggressive intercept profile, closure rate 600 knots. His pulse spiked. Training took over. He called it in immediately. 2 bandits, southeast, closing fast. And 80 miles north, the USS Porter's combat center came alive. Radar operators watched the engagement develop in real time. 2 Venezuelan fighters in full afterburner, broadcasting their positions to every sensor within 200 miles, charging toward an American jet completely unaware they were being tracked by systems they couldn't even detect. The Venezuelan pilots thought they had surprise. They had nothing. Every move they made was being watched, every tactic anticipated. But they didn't know that. They thought they were hunters. They were already prey. The American pilot made his decision in heartbeats. Turn into the threat, light the afterburners, climb for altitude, gain energy, gain advantage. His hand moved to weapons, master arm on, long-range missile selected. But the Venezuelans weren't playing conventional intercept. At 52 miles out, they executed their carefully rehearsed tactic, radical split. One broke hard left, one broke hard right, forcing him to choose targets, forcing him to divide his fire. The lead pilot smiled inside his mask. The plan was working. The American was reacting exactly as predicted. Then the American ripple-fired both missiles, one toward each target. 12 feet of precision-guided death accelerating to 4 times the speed of sound. Time to impact, 38 seconds. The Venezuelan lead pilot's confidence held firm. He trained for this, expected this. He went immediately defensive, chaff exploding into metallic clouds, flares burning hotter than jet engines. 8G turn that crushed him into his seat and tunneled his vision. He yanked vertical, bleeding airspeed, breaking the radar lock. In the simulator, this always worked. He'd done this maneuver 100 times. His wingman rolled inverted and dove toward the ocean, pulling the same defensive pattern they'd rehearsed endlessly. The wingman's gamble paid off. His missile lost lock and ground clutter and detonated harmlessly above the Caribbean. He whooped inside his mask. It worked. The Americans' technology defeated by pure flying skill. But the lead pilot's confidence shattered in the same instant his aircraft did. His missile tracked through every defensive maneuver, through every turn he'd practiced, through every tactic that worked in training. Proximity fuse activated. The fragmentation warhead detonated 20 feet from his aircraft. Tungsten rods ripped through his fighter's wing, shredding fuel tanks and hydraulic lines. The aircraft rolled violently. Fire warnings screamed. Hydraulics failed. Flight controls went dead. His last thought before reaching for the ejection handle: this wasn't supposed to happen. He punched out, his $40 million fighter tumbling toward the ocean in flames, and watched his wingman continue the attack. Pride surged through him despite the parachute descent. His wingman would finish this. His wingman would prove they were right. The surviving Venezuelan pilot's confidence was absolute now. He'd seen his leader's jet hit, but he'd also seen the American's missile defeated. One-on-one now. Equal odds. Better odds. The American had no missiles left, had to be low on fuel, had to be rattled. This was his moment. Glory was 90 seconds away. He charged straight at the American in a pure head-on attack. Closure rate 1,200 knots, 18 miles and closing like a freight train. He'd visualized this exact scenario. Fire both missiles. The American would go defensive, try to escape, but he'd be too close, moving too fast. The missiles would track. One would hit, maybe both. He'd return to base a hero, medals, promotion, proof that American technology could be beaten by Venezuelan courage. His thumb hit weapons release with absolute conviction. 2 missiles leapt from his wingtips, infrared seepers locking onto the Super Hornet's glowing engines. 9 miles, 8, 7, victory approaching at Mach 4. The American pilot's countermeasures fired automatically, chaff and flares filling the sky. He broke hard right, 9 gravities crushing him into his seat, and vision tunneling to a pinpoint. The first missile took the bait, chasing a magnesium flare, but the second missile filtered through the decoys, locked onto the real target. 4 miles out, it went terminal. Active seeker, final intercept. The Venezuelan pilot watched his missile tracking true and certain. Probability of hit, 97%. He was already planning his radio call. Splash 1 American Super Hornet, returning to base. The American pilot did the only thing left. Nose down, full afterburner, dive. The Super Hornet plummeted from 20,000 feet with the missile following. 3,000 feet, 2,000, 1,000. At 700 feet, the proximity fuse activated. The warhead detonated 40 feet behind the tail. Shrapnel shredded both vertical stabilizers. Both engines catastrophically failed. Fire erupted across the airframe. Striker 7 is ejecting. The Venezuelan pilot watched the American jet explode into the Caribbean and unleashed a victory cry that echoed through his radio. He'd done it, shot down an American Super Hornet, defeated their technology, proven that skill and courage trump radar and missiles. He banked hard, already composing the combat report in his mind. The respect he'd earn, the fear he'd instill. America would think twice before patrolling Venezuelan waters now. He had 90 seconds of pure, intoxicating victory. 90 seconds of believing he'd changed the balance of power. 90 seconds of imagining heroes welcome. 90 seconds before reality arrived at 3.5 times the speed of sound. USS Porter had watched everything unfold on radar.
Crystal clear, high definition, every move telegraphed, every tactic anticipated. The moment Striker 7 went down, the captain made his decision with cold certainty. The Venezuelan pilot thought he'd won a victory. He'd actually just triggered a response he couldn't imagine, couldn't escape, couldn't survive. Rules of engagement were explicit. American forces attacked, respond with overwhelming force. No hesitation, no proportional response, no mercy. Weapons free. Engage hostile aircraft.
The Aegis combat system came alive. 96 missile cells loaded with interceptors designed to kill ballistic missiles at ranges exceeding 200 miles. Using such weapons against one fighter was overkill, but the message mattered more than the mathematics. The Venezuelan pilot was still celebrating when two missiles erupted from the launch cells. Twin rocket motors ignited. The weapons accelerated vertically, pitched over, arced toward target at 3.5 times the speed of sound. The Venezuelan pilot's celebration ended when his radar warning receiver screamed. Different tone, more urgent. He looked at his display and felt ice flood his veins. 2 new contacts, supersonic, inbound. Time to impact, 22 seconds. These weren't fighter missiles. These were something else, something bigger, something unstoppable. His confidence evaporated. He broke hard left, dumped chaff, maximum afterburner. Every defensive maneuver he knew, every trick he'd learned, every tactic that had worked against the Americans' missiles, nothing mattered. The first missile acquired target at 12 miles, made micro adjustments with computer precision, pulled 40 gravities in terminal phase, maneuvers no human could survive, no human could predict, no human could outfly. The Venezuelan pilot realized the truth in his final seconds. He hadn't ambushed the American. He'd been allowed to shoot, allowed to score his kill, allowed to celebrate. Because the real response was never going to come from one fighter. It was going to come from the destroyer he'd forgotten about, the sensors he couldn't see, the weapons he didn't know existed, the Navy he'd fundamentally underestimated. He'd won the battle and lost everything. Proximity fuse detonated. 133 pounds of high explosive turned his fighter into aluminum confetti in burning fuel. The pilot didn't survive. His last thought, a desperate realization that victory had been an illusion. The second missile found no target and self-destructed over open water. 90 seconds. That's how long his celebration lasted. 90 seconds from hero to gone. 90 seconds from victory to annihilation. But the United States wasn't finished, not even close. The Venezuelan pilots had believed they could ambush one jet and disappear. They'd miscalculated catastrophically. Within 6 hours, 4 Super Hornets launched from the carrier USS Gerald R. Ford. Mission: suppression of enemy air defenses. Target: Venezuela's radar installations, the eyes of their air defense network. 2 Chinese radars, 1 Russian fire control system, about to go permanently dark. The strike package carried anti-radiation missiles designed for one purpose: find enemy radars, follow emissions to source, destroy. At 1300 hours, Venezuelan radar operators made their fatal mistake. They turned on their systems, broadcasting positions to every sensor in theater. The moment those radars went active, they signed their death warrants. 4 missiles launched. First Chinese radar, impact at twice the speed of sound. Explosion vaporized the antenna. 3 operators didn't survive. Second installation, 6 seconds longer survival time. Same result. Russian system tried to shut down. Too late. Impact. Fireball. Venezuela's air defense network went dark. Total mission time, minutes. Total cost, $11.8 million. 3 radar sites obliterated. 15 personnel lost. Message sent with surgical precision. The accounting was brutal. Venezuela lost 2 fighters, $80 million. 3 radar installations, $60 million. 15 personnel lost. Total losses, $140 million for one morning's aggression.
One morning's miscalculation. One morning when two pilots believed skill could overcome technology, courage could defeat sensors, and ambush could work against an enemy watching their every move. The United States lost one Super Hornet, $67 million, but spent less than $12 million in missiles to deliver a response that erased Venezuela's air defense capabilities and killed the pilots who thought they'd discovered a winning strategy. The math was devastating. The message was unmistakable. Because here's what the Venezuelan pilots failed to understand in their confident planning. Modern air combat isn't decided by bravery or aggression or desperation. It's decided who sees first, who shoots first from beyond visual range, who has sensor networks that make mathematics inevitable. They'd rehearsed their ambush perfectly. They'd visualized victory. They believed in their plan, and none of it mattered because the enemy they were fighting could see everything, track everything, kill from ranges they couldn't comprehend. Fourth-generation fighters without modern data links, without advanced radar, without beyond visual range capability are obsolete against carrier strike groups. The defensive layers are too deep. Destroyer radar coverage extends hundreds of miles. Super Hornet response time under 10 minutes. Long-range missiles engaging at distances where return fire is impossible. The Venezuelan pilots brought skill and courage to a fight decided by mathematics and sensors. One morning, $140 million, 15 personnel lost, two pilots who believed they could win, one who didn't survive the ejection, realizing too late the Americans had let him shoot, one who didn't make it back, never understanding he'd been bait, all to deliver a lesson that was always available for free. You do not shoot down American aircraft in international waters. You do not ambush jets backed by destroyers with Aegis systems. You do not celebrate kills when the enemy can see everything you do from beyond the horizon. The Venezuelan pilots learned this lesson in the 90 seconds between victory and vaporization. There are no winners in modern air combat, only survivors counting the cost, only wreckage sinking into the Caribbean. Only pilots who believed they'd found a winning strategy, discovering the hard way that confidence without technology is just expensive bravery. The morning started with two Venezuelan pilots convinced they'd change history. It ended with their fighters destroyed, their radars obliterated, and their names added to the long list of warriors who learned that modern warfare is decided long before pilots even see each other. Sometimes the price of confidence is written in fire, sometimes in blood, and sometimes, like that morning over the Caribbean, it's written in the 90 seconds between celebration and annihilation.